stand for the pledge? Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Bellinger.
Here.
Trustee Wankowski.
Here.
Trustee Meisen.
Here.
Trustee Propoli.
Here.
Trustee Colley.
Here.
President Pridemore.
Yes.
Clerk Whitsett. And Trustee Guerrero and Treasurer Stein are absent.
Public comment on the agenda? Approval of the agenda. I'd like to add one item. If we could add under new business, F, residential variance fee.
Also, under unfinished business, we need to remove F because it's a duplicate of A.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Say it again?
Under unfinished business, item F, water late fees and shut-offs, is also item A.
Oh,
Just take it off.
surprise. It's worth repeating.
I make a motion that we approve the agenda as amended.
Support.
Probably moved and supported. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The approval of the minutes council meeting of August 2020.
Make a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
Support.
Probably moved and supported. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the consent agenda.
Make a motion that we approve or accept the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
Been moved and supported. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Now, we do have, correction on that, we do have an engineering project status report. Did you have anything you wanted to update the council on?
Just receive and file, if no questions. I'll take any questions. Other than that, just receive and file.
The payment of bills, Ms. Stein is not with us tonight. So we're requesting the approval of the August 2021 payroll of $74,884.41 and bills to be paid for September 2021 in the amount of $215,840.66 for a total of $290,725.07.
So moved.
Support.
Roll call.
Trustee Meisen.
Yes.
Trustee Wankowski.
Yes.
Trustee Bellinger.
Yes.
Trustee Propoli.
Yes.
Trustee Colley.
Yes.
and President Pridemore.
Yes. And the treasurer's report, total village assets, $5,435,186.88.
Make a motion that we receive and file the treasurer's report.
Support.
Been moved and supported. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Communications and committee reports.
Agenda items for the October 12th meeting are due by October 1st.
And the planning commission report?
The planning commission met. We're moving forward with the zoning changes. There's a public hearing set November 2nd. Continuing to work on the master plan.
And Parks and Rec report, trustee Guerrero is not here tonight, so we'll table that. Under new business, we have the DPW backhoe. The backhoe that we have is over 10 years old, and you can't get parts for it anymore. It has lost most functionality. We use it mostly in our cemetery to dig new graves, and we also use it for any projects involving moving slabs of cement, which we've done at the fountain a few times as we put new infrastructure in there. Again, we can't get the parts anymore, it's so old. So Supervisor Gilbert, and he apologizes he couldn't be here tonight, is requesting that we approve the purchase of a John Deere model 310 SL backhoe loader. And the price was,
$131,000.
yeah, the price was, got through the state of Michigan. So we do have several options if we do approve the purchase of the backhoe. That was included, and I gave you copies so you could review. The total list price, the amount to finance is $103,994. We have an option of 60 months operating lease, if you want to lease the backhoe. We have 60 months municipal lease. Excuse me, my copies are sticking together.
Mrs. Pryor, this is the same one that was in our packet.
It
Yes.
was, and I have to apologize, I was waiting for other figures, and it turns out these were the figures I was waiting for. So the total list price again, $103,994. If we do lease for 5 years, one advance payment of $13,480, followed by 4 annual payments of $13,480, but then we'd have to purchase it for $52,900. The maximum we'd be able to use it is 500 hours annually. If we use a 60-month municipal lease at 2.75%, one advance payment of $21,956 with 4 annual payments of the same, and with a purchase option of $1. So the increase on the lease wood is a purchase to, it's a lease to buy. And with the final lease for the 60-month purchase option of $1 because the yearly fee went up by $7,000. Then we have a 72-month operating lease with an advance payment of $12,362, 5 annual payments of the same amount, with a final purchase option of $49,100, again with a maximum usage of 500 hours a year. You can't use it more than 500 hours a year. And then there are 2 other options, the 72-month, which has payments of $18,543, final purchase option $1, and 84 months operating lease, advance payment of $12,413, 6 annual payments of $12,413 with a purchase option of $38,000. Again, a cap of 500 hours annually. And the final 84 months municipal lease at 2.75%, 1 advance payment of $16,107. Every year thereafter for an additional 6 payments, $16,107 a year with a purchase option of $1. We can also pay cash. We have enough money in our street fund, our cemetery fund, and our major roads fund, which is the purpose this equipment would be used for.
Is there a discount for doing so, other than 2.75% plus the limit on what we can and can't do for hours?
No, the discount is right here. The state contract discount was $79,000, that's the discount.
Okay, so there's not like
An additional discount, no.
Okay.
So the current backhoe we have right now doesn't work, we don't have one anymore?
No, it works, but it works for certain jobs, not all jobs. And again, they were trying to replace parts. It's old enough, but they've been trying to replace parts, and they've been replacing parts as they went along. Got to the point you can't get parts for it anymore.
What have we been spending on maintenance for in the manual?
I don't have that figure. I should have asked Marcus, and I apologize for that. It's just gotten to the point where we do have the money to replace it, and this is not the only piece of equipment that we're looking to eventually replace. We had one of our DPW workers go up in the cherry picker, he was stuck up there for 45 minutes. So their equipment has been allowed to, it's not optimal for safety, for worker safety. So Mr. Supervisor Gilbert is asking that we consider replacing the John Deere.
What were some of the things that we can't do with it now?
If you can only use it goes so far if you have 5 graves to open. From what I understand, it won't complete the job. They had issues with it removing, when they planted the COVID tree at Fountain Park, when the people from Wiegand's dug down, they found a huge slab of cement that was left up from a building that used to be there. And there were problems digging that out. So it's now working out, to the best of its ability, and they're facing challenges using it for extended periods of time.
Did they do any price estimating for a used one? Did they do any research like that at all to see if somebody else had one?
Yeah, they did. And the price point, because of what's going on today with equipment, it wasn't that much more expensive to buy a new. And again, if you buy a used one, it's used for a reason. Somebody's selling it for a reason, so you might be finding their problems. So we do have the money available to get the new piece of equipment, so they will have at least one new piece of equipment. But certainly, if you want to table this until Mr. Dilbert can come to the meeting and explain it, so that's up to you.
My only question is, how quickly will they need another piece of equipment, and do they have the funds to purchase that?
I don't know. It's the cherry picker, the
Right.
And they don't use it that often. So I'm not sure that they could even guarantee how long it's going to last. That one, from what I understand, they're looking for parts for it to replace it. They've been replacing parts on all of the equipment. There hasn't been a capital outlay at DPW for quite a while,
Right.
including,
Didn't they buy a
Well,
truck?
we just did
the truck. We did the truck. But the truck is used for transportation, it's not really used for work. So, but
Do we know
between
how
that
many
and the
hours?
I
building.
hope it's only used for work. This.
Yeah, well, yeah, it is.
Do we know how many hours they typically use? And I just ask because I'm seeing this 500 and.
Yeah, I'm really not sure that they would go exceed that.
Would it be detrimental for us to just table it till we have Marcus so that we could ask those specific questions? I mean, just for.
The gentleman is here for AIS, could we table this until next month?
Sure. I could probably answer a few of the questions
Okay.
that you may have had.
Please introduce yourself.
So in regard to the number of hours used, now I don't recall exactly the number of hours that are on your Komatsu WB 140 now. However, that machine is, I believe, 19 years old. It's a 2002. Based on the hours of use on that machine, it would be very unlikely that you would exceed 500 hours of use, on the lease. I think that your annual hours, and this is a guess, just trying to remember what the hours were on that, it was more in the range of 300 some hours a year, annual use. In regard to used, I believe that, Marcus and I did talk a little bit about what might be out there for a used machine. What typically will happen, particularly with municipal deals, is we get so much discounting using the state contract discount that the price that a municipality or any other governmental entity can buy the machine for as compared to someone, say a general contractor, is so much less. There's not that much difference between a new and a used if you want to find something that's late model, low hour.
Now, is it easy to find parts for a 19-year-old Marcus?
Parts parts are not easily available for that machine. It is no longer manufactured. Komatsu built a backhoe for a relatively short number of years. I want to say 7 or 8 years, something like that. And it hasn't been manufactured now for, probably 10 plus years. So, not saying parts are completely unavailable, but their availability is not great and it's not getting better.
Yeah, I talked to Supervisor Dilbert about getting parts, and he said they tried, they looked. And, down the road, some might become available, but.
obsolete, but it's kind of sort of like if you had a Ford Edsel right now, you could probably somehow find parts for it, but it would be simple.
Based on what you said about the hour usage, is this piece of equipment categorized as good, better, or best?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Like, is this the only option?
Oh, so I quoted the machine based on what you currently have. So this is not the most expensive or the largest machine that we could provide, but it is the one that closely matches in regard to size and capability to what you currently have.
Okay.
But again, there are, like I say, there are larger, more expensive machines available. This is a very common size for municipal customers throughout the area.
Okay, thank you.
So I did a little bit of research on what I could with what was in the packet. So I think the old one, the term obsolete is probably accurate, right? I mean, I think you were hesitant, but I had trouble finding stuff. But on the other end, I found some other pricing for like 2019, the same exact model, just like on GovPlanet, you can get a 2019. I'm not saying that that's a viable path, an option, but they start ranging from $70,000 to $80,000. So and that's why I just said, if we have the analysis to, feel comfortable with making a decision. But I'm assuming because it's a combined contract for the state, we don't have to have competitive bids? We don't have to go out and give
Oh,
them?
no, this has to be competitive bidding.
So we're only approving the purchase, not the purchase of this one? Because there's only this one price for this one, right?
As I understand, I'm sorry to interrupt. As I understand, we negotiate with the state of Michigan the biannual contract, which, as I understand, satisfies the bid requirement for any other governmental entities in the state of Michigan.
Marcus reached out to a couple of different companies, and I guess some of them do not work with the state. You said you talked to one company that didn't work with the state, so you do work with the state, you're able to get.
Yeah, so I used pricing based on the biannual contract that AIS Equipment has negotiated and has with the state of Michigan.
Okay.
Which I believe, I don't know if I think I may have included the pertinent pages of the state contract in that packet. I didn't print the entire contract, but I did print the cover page along with the page that has that model machine listed with the discount.
So at the final price of 103, that is hard to compete with from just Google, right? If you Google and then go hard find it, so.
No, you're talking about the other website was Gov.
So GovTrax, right? So you can get, it's all your old government equipment, and it's not all old, right? You can buy brand new vehicles, pennies on the dollar. So I found this, a 2019, when the starting bid was 40,000. It will
it's
sell.
a bid process?
Yeah, it's a bid process. It'll sell for more than 40, but the government says I'll take 40 and go. And it's not the easiest process to use, but there's usually travel involved. But it's you can find out how much stuff sells for, which gives you a competitive bid, what people are willing to pay for used equipment. And it still takes it up around the $70,000, $80,000 mark. So, but 103 is this seems accurate to me, that's a competitive price, that I'm not sure. The cheapest when I spec'd it out, because I tried to do as quick as I could on this, was 117. It was the closest I could get to just if I wanted to go buy one myself. Now that's not the same, but so that's a big difference.
I'm so concerned about the price of a new one. I'm more looking at it from the viewpoint of seeing something that why we need to buy it now. what is the maintenance cost we're paying now? What are the delays? How long the delays have been? I mean, I want to see something that shows a need to buy this. I mean, I kind of just want to give this the same level of scrutiny that we give some of the other departments here when they want capital outlays.
Okay. You want to table it?
I'm more comfortable tabling.
Okay.
So we're just gonna ask Marcus to come back with some cost data. And it might not be bad to have in a presentation of what he tried to get in use, just to see what the other, or at least like, I think we made the fire department come back in and say what he tried. Tried this company, they said pound sand. Tried this company, they said pound sand, right?
Yeah, I mean, when we were talking about like the Tango, for example, we required like 3 competitive bids, like across like Ford, Chevy, et cetera. And then we had like a yearly cost of like what it was costing us to maintain the old Tango, what the major issues with it are. I think it would be nice to just see some of that in front of us. And although I don't doubt the pricing structure, I do think, like, we've asked for RFPs from like every project. I think it probably should be done uniformly.
But,
Okay, then let's table it.
yeah, I like Sandy's memo though, because I've been harping on this fund balance, right? That we got fund balance, we should be using it, right? And it's right here in front of us, $991,000 is sitting in a balance. That doesn't mean just go spend it, but
Yeah.
But it's
But
nice.
it's right there in front of us and, you know,
Well, and it's not, it's also nice to know what different funds that it would be applicable for.
Make your streets-
Right, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, no, you said that, and that's nice. It's nice
We
that it's
appreciate
not.
that it was in
It's
the
nice we got the money.
Yeah.
well, that's kind of what I've been talking about whenever we vote on something, to have a fund balance right there in front of us that goes, look, you could do this and it's zero risk from available cash, so.
Okay,
Just
well,
a
you go.
point of order, like, say, let's assume that we were gonna go ahead and do this tonight. And the purchase would be applicable to those funds. Would we allocate the cost over, is there a certain way that we would be taking the money out of each one of these funds? Or is it general fund and Sandy works that part
No,
out?
it's not general fund. It would come out of the, we could pay for the equipment out of the funds that are used by DPW. Major streets, cemetery, what was the other one?
water.
Thank you. Because they use the equipment for those, the funds, the money would come from those line items, not the general fund.
So you could basically just take whatever the purchase price is and split, just throwing an example out. You could
Yeah, it depends
split
on the
it across
level of
all
the
three.
fund. You know, again, I know street funds has X amount of dollars, we could probably take 30% from there, 25% from the cemetery fund, and then the balance from.
Yeah, that's what I was
Yeah, I
asking.
wouldn't-
There's a pretty good discrepancy between the fund balances of each of these three funds. How would we be?
It's,
allocating costs?
whichever one is overfunded the most would bear most of the cost.
Okay.
Sandy
So,
does.
and these are really close numbers to what's in the treasurer's report as well. They're off by $2,000 to $3,000 depending on actions past this memo. But like my recommendation would be the major street funds. It's carried that large balance for a very long time. Right, so whereas the other ones, the cemetery, we've been concerned about making whole, right? So we moved 2 councils ago, we moved funding into the balance on cemetery. So.
Yeah, I just question the process of it. Would it be by motion or would it be just?
You know, Sandy, you trust Sandy to do a job. And you would just say, we approve, you know, whatever. And she's really good at it. She will come in and say, I recommend we take this amount. So as long as we approve the amount, she does her wizardry and figures out which fund can bear the expense most. So, okay, we'll table it to the next month. Procurement? Yeah.
In addition, I know at the fire committee level, when they wanted the Tango, we also said, well, what are you going to want after this? And we asked them to kind of
Give us a 5-year
Give us
plan on what
what the
equipment's
plan
gonna
was.
age out.
That's part of the capital improvement plans that we're going to be suggesting once we establish a fund balance policy. And we will be talking to all department heads.
Right. I'm just wondering if maybe Marcus could maybe do a little bit of that work. And the reason I say that is because, all right, he comes and we say, okay, this is great, let's do this. And then 2 months later, he comes and says, oh, well, I need this now, but I don't have enough funds. Is that something maybe he could do? He doesn't have to present that, but maybe in a written application, he can provide that to us, what is going on with all the equipment and what's going to need.
Oh, we could do a review, certainly. We could do a review. But part of what I'm going to be doing is reaching out to the department heads again and finding out capital improvement plans, if we can fund them on a 3-year arc, 5-year arc, so we're not getting $103,000 disappearing at a time. So we're going to be setting that up as well, once we establish a fund balance policy. So, okay. Any other questions or concerns? Okay. Procurement policy for federal grants. At our budget workshop, Michael Roca from Yo and Yo informed us that we will be receiving the ARP funds, which are federal funds, and we need a federal procurement policy in place. Receipt of these funds is going to trigger what's called a single audit, and I think Mike explained that a little bit at the budget hearing. And the federal government wants to have our policy in place saying, basically, what we do just when we procure stuff, but they want it worded in a policy, that we keep track of the expenses, that we agree to receive the money, we track the money, we get approval for the money, which we do anyway when we do anything at a village level. The only difference that I saw was the disbarment policy, where we have to run any proposed contractor through a federal website to ensure that they have not been disbarred by the federal government from doing work using their funds. That was the only difference. The rest of it reflects what we do anyway, business as usual anyway. So before we receive the ARP funds, we need to have a federal procurement policy in place. Did anybody have any questions or concerns?
Do we pass this by resolution or by?
No, it's just a policy. We just adopt a policy. Yeah.
Just so you know, that website is called sam.gov, and it's called an exclusion. I deal with it all the time. So you have the federal government using their money. You got to go to sam.gov, look for that company's name. If they have an exclusion listed, you cannot give them, and it's punishable with fines, and it's a significant fine if you go forward without it. But it's easy to do.
Yes.
Easy to do.
Yeah. So, but that was the only difference that we had. But basically, everything that is reflected in that policy, we already do. This is just putting it in a federal format. So, do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the procurement policy for federal grants.
Support.
Properly moved and supported. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed. Now we have the fire department refinance for the 2017 Freightliner engine. Chief, Mr. Assistant Chief Stewart.
Good evening. The fire department took it upon themselves to refinance the 2017 Freightliner engine. I'm happy to say we were approved, and after your approval tonight, we will get paperwork rolling. We dropped the interest rate from a 2.920% to a 2.65%, which will save us, I think it's right around $2,000. So I'm just asking for your approval to proceed with the refinance.
Any questions?
In the amount of $204,893. The term is 6 years.
Now, does this reset the clock? Like 6 years from this date?
So what we're doing is we're going to leave the payment of $40,000. We're going to leave that the same. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit less, but we're going to leave it the same because we want to get that paid off as quick as we can, and we're going to save a little on interest. The years stay the same. And the first payment will be coming out October 1st of this year.
Do we have any questions, concerns? Do I have a motion?
I actually do have one question I was a little confused on. I saw that it was asking for the attorney opinion on that. What was the rationale?
That's part of the financial institution. They wanted an opinion from a lawyer, and I'm not, he gave it. So and it was the same way when we did it the first go around as well. They asked for an opinion from a lawyer.
There actually is a resolution in your court as well.
Yeah, but is that our resolution? Or
No, that's theirs.
That's the lawyer,
Any other questions? Are we making a motion to approve resolution?
They have a resolution in there because I didn't see it.
Okay, it's their resolution.
Yeah, it's their resolution.
If they want to see a resolution though, you might.
No, no, we're not.
Yeah.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So what are we motioning just to approve the refinance or are you?
Yeah, just.
I'll make a motion that we approve the refinance for the 2017 freight.
Support.
Roll call?
Trustee Mason?
Yes.
Trustee Bunkowski?
Yes.
Trustee Bellinger?
Yes.
Trustee Polly?
Abstain?
Trustee Foley?
Yes.
And President Craig?
Yes. And while you're here, the open burn ordinance,
And my apologies, I meant to speak to you this afternoon about this. In light of the recent events, I think we should table this so we can review this a little bit more. Thank you.
if that's okay, we're going to table it the next one.
Thank you.
And then we have the Housing Commission ordinance. It was updated, the original housing ordinance was formatted back in 1996. And it was just the beginning of the Housing Commission, and it had language about the people that are assigned, there were staggered years. So we just brought that up to say, it's an ongoing entity now, so the terms do last 5 years. And I put in language that is reflected in HUD language about issuing, borrowing money, issuing revenue bonds, accepting grants. Most of this language is boilerplate from the housing and urban development. So very little was changed other than just putting in the appointment of members, term of office, shall consist of 5 members to be appointed by village council. The term of office of members of the Housing Commission shall be 5 years, and they shall serve with compensation set forth by the village council. So instead of reflecting the language when they first formed the entity, this is just going forward. Are there any questions or concerns?
More of a statement, but I like that it has the absence from 3 consecutive housing commission meetings shall be considered resignation. I don't know if that has been an issue or not on the housing commission, but it just seems like it's been an issue on other commissions.
Yeah, we're making that kind of across the board, and many communities have. So, are there any other questions? Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to accept the new.
What is the ordinance number?
388.
Ordinance number 388, the New Haven housing ordinance as presented. with
Support.
changes.
Support.
Mr. Probably moved and supported, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And just to let you know, I had a great meeting with the Pine Woods Housing Commission. They came to the office last Friday. A great bunch of people. They work really well together. And bragging rights, HUD actually rates housing commissions that they service. Pine Woods Housing Commission has a 90, upper 90, 95 plus rating with the Department of Housing and Urban Development. So, and I also asked them, as I did with the Parks and Rec ordinance, once a year we'd like to have somebody come here, present to council, tell us what's going on, and just kind of re-engage with the village. So, but there's some really terrific people working there, very funny people working there. Great sense of humor.
Yeah, they're very autonomous. It's all my years on council, it just works.
Yeah, it was like Brigadoon, it was kind of out there, but yeah, they're great, and they're going to come once a year. I also asked them if they have any legal action against a new tenant. Part of that ordinance is village president must be notified within 15 days. Because they are an entity of the village, we could be liable if someone sideways in court. So we have to be aware of what's going on. So, okay? And now we added residential variance fees, and why don't you speak to this?
Sure. How much background do you want me to give? Should I
just-
give kind of highlight story.
Well, just that somebody wanted a residential.
Yeah, so we had a resident in the village that wanted a residential variance. you know, they're wanting to put in a shed, and there's a conflict of the location of where they're allowed to put the shed based off of current building ordinances for residential properties. So they were recommended to put in to have a request for a variance. The fee though is $600 for a residential variance, or actually for any variance at all. So I asked if we could bring this up to council, if we could consider, you know, a different structure for residential variances, you know, something that makes it a little bit more affordable. You know, for a commercial variance, you know, sure, whatever, but, you know, when it's a residential variance where they just want to put a shed in place, $600 for the variance is pretty much the cost of the shed. Just seems kind of ridiculous to be charging that much to a resident just to ask for a variance for where they want to put a shed.
I do have a little comment on this. In August of 2019 is when it was raised to the $600, and it was because that was something that went before the ZBA board, so it had to pay for the ZBA board to meet. That was a little history behind the cost.
Right. And now we don't have the ZBA board.
Yeah, now we're at the new ZBA, so the cost of it there. But again, for a normal homeowner, that's a lot of money. That is a lot of money. So would council consider lowering the fee for a variance application residential, only single?
What was the fee before? Any idea? Do you have that in your history?
I do not.
I'm thinking 450 for some reason, but I'm not really sure. But again, for any resident that wants to put up a shed, that's an exorbitant amount of money. So commercial properties are different.
Especially because they're going to have to put in a permit as well. If it gets approved, they would then have to file for a permit. Which
They'd have to
is-
submit a site plan, they still have to go
Yeah.
through
So
the regular paperwork.
It's a costly process just to ask for a variance on a shed.
Yeah.
So they'd still have to come in front of the council and present the variance, and the council would have to approve the variance, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
the money if we're already meeting is almost
Yeah.
Right.
arguably
But,
almost
well,
irrelevant.
it's not irrelevant though, because otherwise we're gonna get variance requests for things that really aren't important. I mean, if you don't have any cost at all, we're gonna be sitting at like fielding variances.
No, there's still a cost.
Right,
I
that's
changed my
what.
mind, make it $10,000.
No, I just, I
Yeah.
mean, like, you have to have
15,000.
some kind of a fee established,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so that it's not just every frivolous,
Right,
you know.
absolutely.
Right, and I don't
And
wanna-
I don't disagree, I think 600 is too high, I just think that there has to be some skin in the game so that we're not just getting them for,
Right.
yeah.
Mark, to answer your question, it was 400. It raised from 400 to 600.
That's it.
So we should at least, I would recommend we at least go back to what that was. If it was raised because of a thing and now that's not a bill,
I
then
think that's fair.
Yeah.
I think it's fair too.
Okay. Okay, what we can do is for the next council meeting is prepare all the documentation to lower it to 400, I'm sorry, 400 you said?
Yes.
Yes, okay, okay. So do we have a motion to, 400 documentation to drop the residential variance fee down to $400?
So moved.
support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we will have that paperwork for you at the October meeting. Unfinished business. Water late fees and shut-offs. As you know, when the pandemic hit, we were trying to be sensitive to the residents. They were facing challenges possibly with working or a reduction in their weekly paycheck. So we waived the late fees on the water bills. They averaged out over a 5-year arc, probably about $24,000. So in talking with Ms. Kiesel, people are now paying their bills. I guess they're back to work. And we're not getting the same challenges. We're finding out people are facing same challenges in paying their water bills. So we would like to reinstitute the late fees for water, sewer, and trash utility bills.
Do we have any statistics on how many residents have been paying late?
No, no,
So
it's a handful, it's not that many, I think it's less than, I know it's less than 20, I don't have the exact figure.
Okay.
But-
Because I do have a little bit of a concern, just because I do have residents that reach out to me and say, you know, they just got their water bill like this past Thursday.
Well, we did have that one mass mailing that was late.
Yeah, that was late, and they weren't gonna charge late fees, and if that happens again,
I think that's a nice.
certainly,
way to
we're
do it.
gonna tell Melissa in the office, look, there was a problem, they didn't get their bills until late,
Yeah.
we're not gonna ding anybody this month. I think we have that option.
Okay, yeah, that makes me feel a little bit better, just because until we have full faith that the water bills are getting to them in a regular,
Exactly. I got my bill 2 days after it was due.
right.
Yeah, no, we're cognizant of that fact, some of the challenges that the post office is facing. But, yeah, we don't have really that many people, but we do feel it's time to re-implement the late fees.
Process-wise, when it comes to the water bills, when are they usually dropped off at the post office?
The day they're processed, that's 3.5 weeks in advance of the due date.
Okay.
So, and it's an all-day process. I mean, they're printed out, separated, bundled. But yeah, they're delivered probably, 3.5 weeks before the bill is due.
So 3.5 weeks before they're due is typically then even before the end of the month? Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I asked Melissa if we could even print it out quicker, sooner, so that the residents would have, but it has to do with the readings, and it's a 28-day cycle, and
Yeah.
so she assured me that that was the quickest they could get them out, so.
I will say that I've talked to Melissa because I was late on one of mine. I'm gonna blame the post office. But she said that most of the late fees that were continuing to happen throughout the pandemic were people that paid late previous to it as well.
Right.
Yeah, so that makes like 18 people who are legitimately late, because I've also been guilty of it. So really just Rachel and I are accounting for 10% of the lates right now.
But yeah, we're finding out that people are, there were some people that legitimately had a difficult time paying their water bills.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So, but we found that they're catching up and they're paying their bills on time, so we feel it's time to reinstitute.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that, if the post office is having a hard time of getting the water bills on time to the residents, that we're not cutting them short and only giving them like a day or two to pay.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're keeping that in mind because they're facing challenges like everybody else.
Right, exactly, they're staffing challenges.
All right, do we have a resolution number?
2021-011.
Do I have a motion?
So move.
Support?
Support.
Should that be a roll call?
Yeah, it's monetary.
When in doubt, yeah.
Okay, roll call, please.
Okay, trustee Bunkowski?
Yes.
Trustee Bellinger?
Yes.
Trustee Colley?
Yes.
Trustee Perpoli?
Yes.
Trustee Meissen?
Yes.
President Moore?
Yes. And now we come to the water, sewer, and garbage rates, and Sandy apologizes, she's recovering from not feeling well over the weekend. We do have the rates in front of us. The trash rate was supposed to go up from $15.95 a month to $16.95 a month, but again, we have that overage in the trash fund for some reason. We have almost $100,000 in it. So we are recommending that, once again, we just increase the trash rate by 50 cents instead of $1. That will decrease the trash fund. By the end of the GFL contract in a few years, it will be down to $66,000. We'll still have money in the account to offset the yearly trash rate. The water bond, Sandy and I put our heads together, and we figured out that we could drop it down from $850 a month to $635 a month because the fund is doing well enough. We don't have to keep collecting money, so we can drop that by $2.15. The sewer rate, I'm going to ask that we table that pending the start of our budget hearings in December, because we will be paying off the $122,000 that we were in the hole for. That's going to be paid off sooner, and that's going to have a definite effect on what we collect for the sewer rate. So I'm going to ask that we table that increase. I know we had talked about increasing it to $6 to add more stability to the fund. Right now, we don't need to do that. Our motion was to review it, and Sandy and I reviewed it, and we really don't need to increase it right now. We can wait until the budget hearings so that we can get a clearer picture if we do have to increase it. So the only thing that I'm going to ask for today is that we increase our trash rate by 50 cents to $16.45, and that we decrease the water bond amount from $8.50 to $6.35.
So
So don't we have to adjust the Schedule A on the resolution though?
Yeah, I would just
Good question.
line it out.
Yeah, because the resolution says.
So-
Put
According
initials
to the
next to it, the
schedule.
clerk's or the president's initials next to it.
Yeah, that's all.
So what's the new, so it'd be minus, hold on. Just curious what we're saving the residents now.
$2.15 per month.
No,
Well,
well,
no,
the 149 is
increased it
Oh,
by
I'm
50
sorry,
cents,
yeah,
so it's
yeah.
a net.
Net of 165?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then 165 decrease in the water bills.
Yeah, but, yeah, okay.
Well,
Makes sense.
yeah.
We're- So I know you mentioned about the sewer rate. What about the sewer bonds, though? We're not able to lower the sewer bonds at all?
Not yet. We went through every line item, and I've expressed to Sandy several times that my overarching drive is to reduce the water bills. And I think effective with this budget cycle coming up in December, we're going to have a couple of different budget hearings. We're going to be focusing on that. Because again, the money that we owe, that the state of Michigan keeps rejecting our plan, but they still kind of accept it, that large amount should be paid off. So we will be able to reduce the impact on the monthly water bill. But I just found out also, Candace Miller is going to pass this along. I just heard about this today, another bond.
I was gonna say, I just read it, that
Yeah.
decreasing the bond is just gonna whiplash the residents.
Yeah. But again,
She's on it. She's
yeah,
got more
well,
coming.
the problem is, we're a
So-
2-mile square community and nobody's a millionaire. But, yeah, and we'll have that figure and the information we need to make, I think, a more informed decision, starting with the budget hearings in December.
There's a future conversation, but New Haven specifically is supposed to directly benefit, I thought, from the capital improvements that Candace Miller's looking at, though.
She has refinanced several projects and it saved us, the last time was $63,000 in interest.
No, but I mean, like, even just from, like, the Salt River's movability, I think some of the capital improvement, like, physical capital improvements that she's looking into will directly impact New Haven in a
Oh,
positive way.
Definitely.
Like dredging for kayaking and,
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Isn't that?
Mhm.
Okay, sign us up.
Yeah, I was approached by SEMCOG
yeah,
at the last SEMCOG meeting at Ladenburg Park, and they want New Haven and Lenox Township to get into the conversation. I don't have exact information, I just spoke to you about it. They want the Salt River to be accessible from Lake St. Clair up to Richmond.
so you can literally
Yeah.
put in and go through New Haven, so the people that back to the Salt River truly have,
Yeah,
like,
you'll-
moving water behind them.
and we own 2 lots in Chinook subdivision. They could possibly be a landing for
A
people
launch.
in our community to launch
That's all
kayaks.
fine and dandy, but we're still charging our residents a lot of money for our water bills. And we've been saying over and over again, next budget cycle, next budget cycle, next budget cycle. We've had how many residents move into the village with the subdivisions that have built out, and we still are not
But do you
able to
think
give
That's
relief
what we're gonna
on
go
bonds.
over starting in December.
But part of the problem with that, Brian, is, and obviously we're making forward momentum with that, but part of the problem is, even if we're overfunded in that account, because we gave a plan to the state and had them approve it, we can't touch it until the next, and that's why we have to keep putting it off to the next one. Because there's some of it that we can't vote on until we've satisfied the year plan we gave them.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand that, okay,
Yeah.
that makes more sense.
This is the first year we're gonna be able to,
Right,
Touch this
okay.
one.
so then, yeah.
So I think that's why she's asking, if I'm wrong, maybe that's why we're
No,
asking
no,
for a
that's,
table.
no, that's fine.
That explains it a little bit better, thank you.
But to my way of thinking, we're reducing the water bond $2.15, but then we wanted to increase the sewer rate by $1.49. I mean, what,
Well, yeah, that's why I'm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This-
that's why I was asking to table that for right now.
Yeah.
Let's, between absorbing 50 cents on the trash rate and absorbing the cross-connect program and reducing the water bill down to $2.15, we do have forward momentum in reducing the cost of the residents every month.
So
So,
will this be a resolution 2021-012?
Yes, sir.
I'll move to approve resolution 2021 -012, a resolution to revise charge fees and rates for water, sewer, and trash services, modifying Schedule A to not include the sewer rate hike of $1.49.
Support.
It's been properly moved and supported, roll call.
I have a
Oh, I'm sorry.
question. And we also, Brian, to back up what you're saying, we've talked several times about providing our community with information, explaining all of this, because it is very complicated.
And that's, yeah.
And we all think we've been paying for the same,
Right.
I'll say thing for 110 years, but we really haven't. This is multiple layers of things.
Yeah.
We've got to
So we
format
really
that
need
postcard,
to
yeah.
really work on that piece.
Yeah, well, we're going
especially-
to, is-
Go ahead.
no, I'm sorry.
We've been saying so many times, like, this is the year that we're gonna finally make a difference, this is the year that we're finally gonna make a difference. I thought this was finally the year, and what
It
we've been
is.
telling residents that we were gonna make a difference, and yet we're not making any difference to the sewer
Well, we're
bills. And
making-
I understand why.
But we are making a
but
difference
it's-
to their water bills because we're literally, and I know $1.65 doesn't go a long way, but
Yeah.
we're literally voting to improve that,
Right.
Yeah,
which
and-
is something a lot of municipalities can't say right now.
True. I just, with the, making a difference on the bonds does help, what we're charging on the bonds. The rate per unit though also would make a higher impact. Like right now, we're just talking about the difference of, $1 or $2 per month.
Well, we're going to be addressing this in December at the first
Right.
budget hearing,
Right.
because I think we could make some significant improvement.
Yeah.
But I think the other hard part about that is we really were hoping last year to make a difference, and then our water rates were raised by the Great Lakes Water Authority when with the houses going in, we were like, finally, we're gonna have this price break because we have more people paying, and instead they said, you're using more water, here's a bigger bill.
Yeah, they're working against us. No.
Well, but it's
Yeah,
true
it
though,
really
so I
feels
think
like
there's
it's
some unforeseen
Every
things
time
that are.
There's a lot of variables, and I think we'll have more information on the new builds, what's coming in. And I think that's going to be the first issue we talk about in our budget hearing.
Yeah, to back up what Trustee Bonkowski said, I really think we need the communication because
Yeah.
we've been promising residents that there's gonna be an improvement for years.
But it's going to be multiple information on the flyer, including the establishment of fund balance policy, discretionary income, capital improvements. There's going to be a lot of information there, because a lot of people just haven't been brought up to speed for a long
Sure,
time.
but this is what they're concerned about.
And a couple other things too.
But the kick in the gut with the Great Lakes Water Authority was they increased your fixed rate. So it
Right.
didn't matter how much water I used, more or less, my rate went up.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah.
Who's,
We just did the vote,
who
sorry.
made the motion?
Mark, that was Brian.
And support was, okay.
Foley.
Roll call.
Trustee Burkholz?
Yes.
Trustee Bonkowski?
Yes.
Trustee Bellinger?
Yes.
Trustee Meisa?
Yes.
Trustee Cowley?
Yes.
And President Craig?
Yes. Okay, the land moratorium, I'm going to let Trustee Bonkowski.
Planning Commission is just asking to extend that. December is the date. I have it in my head.
December 14th.
Thank you. I don't have it open in front of me. So we can get through the zoning changes. And then that will be able to be lifted. We have to vote to extend that.
Make a motion that we vote to extend the land moratorium until December 14th, 2021.
Support.
Properly moved and supported. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
All right, now we have the Clark Street property. Mr. Vale, would you like to come up?
Thank you for allowing us to be in front of you guys today. This is in regards to the 47 acres over on Clark Street. And we have 2 letters of intent from 2 developers that are interested in the parcel.
Just because of your face shield, you're gonna wanna get right in front of your microphone.
We have 2 developers that are interested in the 47 acre parcel on Clark Street.
The first letter of intent is from Mark
As well.
Kiswali.
Wolverine Building Company. Yes.
Okay. And is he part of a real estate firm, or is he?
He owns Wolverine Building Company.
Oh, he owns
It's a
Wolverine.
local builder.
Okay. And can you tell us what the conditions of this offer? Earnest money, 20,000. Additional earnest money for deposit of $10,000 or a 90-day extension.
We break down the contingencies.
Yeah, oh, thank you.
Yeah, they're offering the purchase price of $300,000 on the property. They're asking for 180 days of a due diligence period. At the 181st day, the $20,000 becomes hard money, non-refundable, and they would secure another $10,000 at that point for an additional 90 days. And they would do their due diligence on that parcel. Obviously, everyone here would have to approve it, and Candace Miller would have to approve it for the drainage on the parcel as well. And they would proceed with the closing at that time, at the end of the second 90-day extension. Excuse me, the first 90-day extension.
Okay. And while they're exercising their due diligence, the property would have to be off the market, is that correct?
It would not be off the market. As it is right now, the property is not off the market.
But were the offer accepted, we wouldn't be able to accept any offers until they had either completed or released their due diligence contingency.
That is correct. Excuse me.
Okay. And the second offer is from.
I have a real quick question about
Okay,
it.
I'm sorry.
Did I also see something about you wanted, okay, so you want site plan approval, yes, I know the county and the others, so does that happen within that 90-day period, the first, the second, third, what?
What was the question?
You want approval, you want site plan approval.
It says that it's contingent upon site plan approval. She's asking at what point of the due diligence contingency would site plan approval be submitted?
As soon as possible. As soon as we can get all the ingredients to have a full package to be delivered to the Planning Commission and to Macomb County Public Works.
But then it's early in the 180 days.
Depending on the time frame, whether there is a bunch of stuff that has to come together to have the site plan approval, and you know that process as well as I do. It takes time to do all that. So the first 180 days, they're going to move as fast as they can, and obviously the second extension for 90 days, they want to move as fast as they can as well. But we need all the approvals to do that.
And you're speaking the site plan approval and the county approval.
Yes.
But prior to that, like you said soon, so like on day, I'm not holding you to a day, but are we gonna see a site plan or request to review it within like 30 days or on day 178?
That's a good question, depending on how fast the engineers can get a site plan that's to the point where it's able to be submitted. For example, we're going to have all the undergrounds done, the detention ponds, storm sewers, gas lines, water lines, all that's going to have to be in the engineering.
Right.
That's going to take time. How much time, I don't know exactly. That's why they're asking for that period of time.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions on that letter of intent? Okay, we have a second letter of intent from Lombardo Homes. The purchase price of the first letter of intent was $300,000 cash sale. Letter of intent from Lombardo, purchase price $350,000. Land will be acquired with cash at closing. The transaction will close not more than 10 days after the expiration of due diligence period. And the due diligence is a 60-day period. The earnest money is a $25,000 deposit.
So they want to give us more money in less time?
Yes. Yeah, I think it's 50,000 over the asking price.
I'm zeroed in more on the time than the money personally.
Well, but it's more and less time.
Correct.
So it's bonus, right? So,
And the land will be acquired with cash at closing. Anyone have any questions or concerns?
only if we don't take more money with less time.
All right, do we have a motion?
I will make a motion to accept the offer from
Anthony?
Lombardo Companies. I'm not sure what the title is.
Anthony Lombardo.
Thank you, Anthony Lombardo, here it is, for $350,000.
Support?
It has been moved and supported. Can we get a roll call?
Trustee Pankowski?
Yes.
Excuse me, trustee Collins?
Yes.
Trustee Bellinger?
Abstain.
Trustee Meisen?
Yes.
Trustee Foley?
Yes.
And President Pridemore.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, and now we have the zoning board of appeal. I gave a rough draft. I forwarded a rough draft to all of you. We were notified by the county that acting as a ZBA, we have to have a separate rules of procedure for the time when we do act as a ZBA. They will be a separate hearing, much like the public hearings that we have before council meetings, with a separate time indicated on the agenda. Like any other meeting, it will be open, roll call. It will have a separate agenda. The agenda is a little different in that it allows for the people petitioning the ZBA to speak. So I submitted a rough draft, and if anybody here has any questions or concerns or wants to offer any amendments to the rough draft to make it a little better. It's pretty straightforward.
I liked it.
Okay. And this does, but this does offer a slightly different rules of procedure than normal council rules of procedure in that you must disclose conflicts of interest. If a family member or a neighbor comes up, you have to recuse yourself. And literally, you have to walk out of the room. So.
No comments, no.
Right.
Yeah.
And if anyone wants to go review or go to a site to review what they want to do, it's recommended you drive separately, not to make sure you don't violate the open meetings act. So there are a couple of different restrictions or concerns. And I think as time goes on and we actually get an opportunity to hold a hearing, we'll get more familiar with the policies and procedures.
You perked my interest with the conflict of interest, obviously, with the neighbor part of it.
Yeah.
Since I just brought the other topic, is it like direct neighbor? Is it anybody in the subdivision? I mean,
If you were approached before they filed for a variance, that's a conflict.
Okay.
Okay, because you had knowledge of it, ahead of time.
I don't think it's just neighbors, if you're friends, if you can establish like a chain of
So
conversation.
basically, I'm going to be abstaining all the time.
You will.
Well, and your role,
Only for the court part, yeah, but,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, we're gonna
To
run
be
into
fair.
that in Amherst as well, right?
Right.
Like if there's.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. I
Yeah.
just want to make sure.
I don't have any friends, so it's okay.
it's across city bears, but, yeah, definitely, this does hold us under a kind of, when it comes to these
Yeah,
hearings.
so I'm good with that.
You didn't get kicked off, it goes 9 miles an hour, nobody wants
I
to
bet.
do anything on you.
If this meets with your approval, again, these are just rules of procedure, it doesn't need a resolution number. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you.
We're skipping off.
Yes, we're skipping out. And just an update again on the ARPA funds. Sandy just got notified by the state that our application was rejected because in one place on a multiple page application, we forgot to put the date. So they're gonna email it to us, and we're gonna put the date in. Hey, at least they're reviewing it. The latest statistic from the state and the treasury department is that the village of New Haven will be receiving $516,000 in 2 different tranches. So that's $258,000 should be coming in the next couple of weeks. And then next year, another $258,000. We have 2 years from the date of the last tranche to dedicate the money, tell them what we're going to do with it. And then it has to be done by 2 years after that. So we do have the luxury of time. What I would like is for our Ways and Means Committee to get together and start reviewing with Sandy. Sandy and I'll sit down with you, and we're going to go over the allowable expenses. The federal government, again, has tightened up what we can use the money on. Water and sewer infrastructure, new, nothing that's already been done. Internet broadband, and roads. I believe roads were included, but it has to be new projects, and there's limitations on it. Correction, sidewalks. We just found out that we could do it for sidewalk projects. But they've got a very narrow focus on what you can use it for. You cannot use it for existing debt. You cannot use it for the bonds. You can't use it for payroll unless you get a reimbursement for first responder pay, firefighters, police officers. So again, I'd like to have Ways and Means meet. We can do a bigger dive into this. And once we get a list of projects, I would like to reach out to the community and get a citizens committee going and tell them this is what we're allowed to spend it on. And find out what the residents would like to see the purpose of the money used for. We will be earmarking some of that money for IT, an information board. We're getting facts and figures to present to council now. But yeah, Ways and Means, I'd like you guys to get together, and Sandy and I'll be sitting in with you, and we're going to talk about what we can spend the money on. And now we've got the fund balance policy. It's been brought up before. We do have to establish the fund balance policy. If we want to be able to tell the residents we have X amount of dollars, this is the money we've got available for capital improvements or for infrastructure or for any other projects we want to do. With the establishment of a fund balance policy, we can start doing capital improvement programs, figuring out what capital outlay is. If, for example, we wanted a community center, and the one we're looking at, the construction and everything is going to be $600,000 over a 5-year arc, we could earmark the unassigned funds $100,000 a year to fund a community center, again with community outreach to see what the residents would like to see. But we need to establish this fund balance policy so we know what kind of markets we got to play with. Anybody have any questions or concerns?
So I think I brought it up last time, but I went through it again and again. I kind of read it through. I think the only objection I have is I'm not sure it's really worth the bang is worth the bite as far as slowing down progress. I just would caution the council just to be aware of this section I brought up last time, assigned fund balance. The village council is authorized the village president as the official authorized to assign funds balance to a specific purpose as approved by the fund balance ordinance. So that can take future, a lot can happen under that paragraph. And normally it would be good things, but it could also not necessarily be good things because that's outside of the council. Again, the intent I think is a positive intent, but it could be used other ways. So
and the initial language that I formatted said, upon approval of village council, it was recommended by Yo and Yo to reflect language saying one person does the transfers. I said upon approval of council, tried to get it past them, and you recommended that it's one person. So, are there any other questions or concerns?
Well, is there a way that we can compromise on that? I mean, I agree with what Mark's saying, and I'm sure you do too.
I proposed it to begin with.
Just based on, not necessarily history in our community, but history in other communities and such. And
other communities, it's one person that's designated to move, but it's all upon approval of council. That's reflected in other parts of the ordinance. The village president can't just up and say, I'm taking this money and I'm putting it there. There's other places in the ordinance that say upon approval of the village council. But instead of waiting 30 days to approve the transfer, what we could say is, well, we're dropping low. We need to transfer the money into the rainy day fund. So that's all it is. It's just for expediency, as Michael explained it to me.
Would a compromise be to put some verbiage in there that says that for the assigned fund balance, something to the effect of the village president must, communicate whatever fund balance is assigned to the rest of the council. That like if the village president makes an assignment of the fund balance,
So,
communicate it out to
Oh,
all
that-
council.
so this is the dog I walked in my head, right? So, Ann decides, the president decides that, and I'm just throwing a hypothetical out there, right? You can apply it to whoever you'd like to apply it in that seat. Decides to say, we need $3 million in the fund balance. This council's not spending anything until I get that fund balance at $3 million. This ordinance allows them to do that. This ordinance allows that to happen.
What we have is committed fund balance. The village council is the village of New Haven's highest level of decision-making authority, and the formal action that is required to be taken to establish, modify, or rescind a fund balance commitment is a resolution approved by the village council at a council meeting. The resolution must be either approved or rescinded as applicable prior to the last day of the fiscal year for which the commitment is made. What we could do is say, upon approval approved by the village council at a council meeting, and hold on one
You're
second.
talking about in the assigned fund balance?
Yeah, hold on one
So if I
second.
just, because the rest of it I think all makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Now,
Well, to go with your hypothetical, right? So let's say the village president, whoever that may be at whatever given point in time, says, I want to assign $3 million. If we had the stipulation that they at least have to communicate it out to council, wouldn't we then at the next council meeting be able to come in and say, absolutely not, and strike it down?
communicate's not the same as approval, right?
No, but at least we're informed.
Yeah, but you can't act on it. Again,
Well, that's what I'm saying, if we're all informed, we could all strike it down at the next council meeting.
You can't.
well, we could, I think the council, well, correct me if I, see, this is why I think I backed off my stance. If that happened, because that's a pretty significant hypothetical, right?
Right.
But couldn't the council of its own accord say, hey, we don't like that, we want to bring up this ordinance, and we want to adjust the ordinance that you can't assign the fund balance above X percent, right? So I think we'd still have, I guess, the argument say recourse, but that'd have to be a consensus of the council, but it would also have to be a consensus of the council the other way,
Correct.
right? If you change the language. So I softened on it and said, well, if the council really wants to say that's not appropriate use of our funds, we could always just, somebody could generate.
Everything is subject to your approval.
Right,
And
so-
I think I found a spot that we could amend very quickly to table. If the unassigned fund balance falls below the goal or has a deficiency, the village may replenish a fund balance deficiency from multiple resources, including non-recurring revenues, budget surpluses, year-end surpluses, and excess resources in other funds upon approval of the village council. Would that satisfy?
It's the last paragraph on page 2.
Yes, policy, under policy, last paragraph. Upon approval by the village council. Would that be all right?
Yeah.
I think that's a good spot for it. And I can put what I wanted in there. I don't get to sneak it in there.
Well, yeah, I mean, it just goes back to the whole teaming aspect of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
So-
just,
Were there any other concerns or questions about fund balance policy?
I'm game for doing one myself, so.
Okay.
What's the ordinance number?
389.
389? I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance number 389, an ordinance to the village of New Haven to establish a fund balance policy consistent with all applicable federal, state, and local accounting laws as amended, or the council will approve at the end of page 2, paragraph, or the end paragraph,
Not
final
approved.
paragraph. Can I just say what the president said to add?
Upon approval.
I was really tap dancing there, sorry.
I've already added it in my.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Support.
It has been properly moved and supported. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Thank you. All right. Is that okay?
That's great.
Cross connection ordinance. They talked to me about this.
So I like that we're getting an ordinance in place because that is showing the state that we are moving towards compliance. And the only question I have is section 5 says each tester shall also be approved by the village. And I'm just trying to figure out the housekeeping on that. Like how's that gonna work? I'm wondering, should it say each tester? Well, it already says only individuals that hold a valid Michigan plumbing license and have successfully passed on an approved backflow testing class shall perform such a test. I wonder if that line should be removed. Each
Yeah, they have
tester
to
shall be
submit
approved by the
results.
village.
Because they have to submit results, the next sentence. And the previous one said they're a licensed plumber, right?
Correct.
So why take that extra step? Is it harmful to remove that one? Is that-
You know, I think it's just covering ourselves because, you know, there are residents that might say, I don't want any strangers coming in my backyard, my brother-in-law Tom's a plumber.
If
And
he's
he
a
can-
licensed plumber, he can do it.
He has to be, is he?
If he's licensed
Yeah,
and
he has
passed
to
the
be, no, it's a different
backflow.
certification. It's a separate certification that the state gives you. So if he doesn't have that certification, you know, he could, you know, submit the report and it wouldn't be valid.
But I think to trustee Bankowski's point is that what if the person is licensed and has the proper certification? And
Then-
it is Joe's brother.
Then when he comes in and he submits the report, he can say, see? That's it.
So all these plumbers are gonna stop before they come to everyone's house to do their testing and stop here in the village and get approval?
No, when they drop off the report. They have to drop off the report. Or they have to write down their certification number on the form. I haven't looked
Each
at the
tester
form.
shall be approved by the village.
Yeah, so if we get the form from the resident and it has the name of the plumbing company and his certificate number, that's approval. As long as it's got the certificate number. And again, I don't know what the form looks like. But the form from the state does have the name of the plumber, their license number. So I'm guessing this, if the resident.
Maybe it should be amended to say instead of each plumber should be approved by the village, that proof of the plumber's qualification, relevant qualifications or required
It
qualifications.
already says that in the line above.
So then we don't need it. It's a double negative, basically.
Okay.
So I would just take that line out if we're already
Should we
asking
strike
for
the
it.
line?
I pulled this directly from Eagles Cross Connection. Man.
So this is what the
This is
state
it,
wants.
Yeah, I mean, I only added a little tiny
It's
bit.
not
that I
us.
found. I sampled from Village of Romeo and stuff, just to make sure, and I cross-referenced state law in case Eagle missed anything, and added, I think, maybe a sentence, but it wasn't this stuff.
Well, that sentence tells me that I need to be approved before I can test.
I can see how you could read it that way. I certainly do.
Well, and I think the plan is also to hire it out, right? The administration of all this anyway. And I think, nice flash. If we're hiring out the administration of all this, it's not gonna be the plumber dropping off to us. They're gonna be sending it over to the administration company that's handling all of this.
Yep.
But I can get my own plumber to do this test.
Are you okay with that or not? I guess it's are you objective to the idea of having your own plumber do it?
Well, we have to allow people to have their own plumber do it. I have to pay for it. I have the right to choose whatever vendor I want to do the test.
But the only thing that I can kind of think of is what if, we always keep playing the games of hypotheticals here. What if there's a plumber that he is certified, he checks all those boxes, but maybe for some reason is less ethical, and the village said, you know what, we don't want that person to be approved.
Perfect. So who is going to make those decisions? And that's my point exactly. Thank
Then
you.
if we're making a judgment call on ethics, don't we open ourselves up to like legal liability?
Right.
Well, and I'm trying to wrap my head around that whole statement. So it's like, what is, are we gonna be rejecting any plumbers or not? If they're fully certified, if they have all the licenses and everything like that.
Why would we?
Right, so then why do we have to required the plumber is approved by the village.
Because the state had the verbiage and
Yeah.
it's
Well, I
not
know,
us,
but
right?
then how does that actually play out? How do we?
If I were gonna clear this up, yeah, I would say each tester shall also be approved by the village prior to or at the time of submitting the report. So that way we have both ways.
He comes in
Say
and he
you
has
come in
to-
early and do it, yeah, you're good, then you can go do that. Or I got my own, he came in, he's like you said, here's the inspection and here's all my credentials, we're good.
Okay.
Which I would make an assumption more than likely it would be, he'll fill those credentials on that report.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So prior to or at the time that you're trying to do that, way you can do it both ways, right? That'd be-
That would
Okay,
be
so
fair.
how can we amend the language in those sections?
So just each, so that second to last sentence in section 5 on page 2 is what each tester shall also be approved by the village, comma, prior to or at the time of, I don't know, what is it, what do they call it, submitting the inspection report? You could call it that, I guess.
At the time of
At the time of
submitting.
submission.
Yeah.
Leave it
Time of
as
submission.
definitive as possible. that
Yes.
We don't have to worry about getting.
Everybody agree to that language, that amendment? Are there any other questions or concerns? And do I have a motion? Or do I have an ordinance number?
Hold on.
390.
390? And do I have a motion?
I make a motion to adopt ordinance 390 as amended with suggestion from the attorney.
Support.
All those in favor?
My question.
Oh, sorry.
So this is only putting the ordinance in fashion into play, it's not hiring any outside entity to start the program,
We're
correct?
putting the policy in place.
Perfect.
Okay.
Next is J. Next is J.
Okay, did we get a,
I support.
okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
All right, and now we have the hydrocorp cross connection program exterior only. I think we received information from hydrocorp, they're only doing exterior inspections because of the COVID, the uptick in the COVID cases. The annual amount on a 5-year rotating plan, every house has to be inspected once every 5 years. So not every resident in the village would be immediately inspected all at once. The cost is $23,166 for a fifth of the village to be inspected per year. The contract is for 2 years, so the contract total would be $46,332. And I talked to Sandra, it'd be 90 cents a month per house. And Sandra said we could very easily absorb the cost. The residents wouldn't have to pay anything. So do we have any questions or concerns?
So if we were to vote and put this up,
Yeah.
we would vote 2 ways. We would adopt it plus vote for the village to absorb the cost, or,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
And I did call and talk to a member of Eagle. You know, this as much as this seems like a bunch of malarkey and bogus stuff, it is a requirement that Eagle put into place. It is something we have to do. It seems like it's a money grab by the state, but it is what it is. Eagle does say that this HydroCorp is like the only company around that does provide the service. So we don't even really have the opportunity to do that. I think we already tried to do the RFP.
We did,
didn't
yeah.
get a
Yeah,
response.
we did.
Yep.
So that supports the fact that HydroCorp's the only one that responded. They're the only ones that are early in the business doing it. Yeah.
And the good news is we're able to absorb the cost instead of passing it on to the residents. A lot of communities have to put an additional one-line cost on the water bills, and we can avoid doing that.
They will still be responsible for the testing though, right?
Whatever they find out, yeah. But if it's exterior only,
Be the pressure backflow.
yeah.
And they're providing those.
Yeah. If they walk in your yard, they find out you have the backflow thing on your spigot that could be.
That's on the spigot, but yeah, no, that's not testable. They'll still have to pressure vacuum right here.
Yeah.
Right,
They
yeah.
gotta test that.
So that residents will still have to pay for the testing.
Should,
If it's determined
if it's
they have to.
determined that it needs to be tested.
Yeah,
Well, if they
Well,
have,
they all will have to be tested.
if they have the pressure vacuum.
if they don't have that one extra thing on it, then, yeah, they'd have to be tested. There's like a bell-shaped thing that's on top of it. If they don't have it, then they have to be tested.
So any houses that don't have, like irrigation.
Yeah. Okay? Any other questions?
I'm just questioning the cost, to be honest with you still, because it's $23,000 a year times 5. Because we're gonna have to extend this, because it's gonna take them 5 years to get rid of it, correct?
I'm sorry.
It's $23,000 a year, I'm
Yes.
right.
Yes.
But we need to times that by 5.
Yes.
This is gonna take them 5 years to get rid of it.
Right.
So, it's 100 and some odd thousand. Divided by 2148, that's our businesses, our residents, manufacturing. It adds up to more than, what did you say, a year per?
90 cents.
90 cents a month.
It's 90
That's
cents a
what
month,
they're-
though, not a year.
90 cents a month. Yeah.
Right.
No, I know, she said.
But again, we can afford it.
But what she's saying is the 90 cents doesn't add up if you actually multiply out the site locations.
This was only for residential, right?
Right.
It's more like $53.92 for each. It's like $10 a year, which I guess is 90, I don't know.
This is what they're quoting
Yeah, it's
us?
$10.80 per house.
Yeah.
Broken
Per
down by
year.
12 months is 90 cents a month.
If they're quoting us this and it's cheaper than what it should be, I think we should go with it. It's only 90 cents a month per household. They're quoting us 90 cents per household per month. So,
It's just at the end of the day, 46,000 is not covering all of our residents.
It's not, but what if the state of Michigan comes to census and says at the end of 2 years, this is
I like that.
unenforceable or not achieving what we're looking at? We're only in a 2-year contract, so we don't need to, I mean, yes, if it goes past 2 years and we have to continue with it, then we have to have that conversation in 2 years. But right now, we only have to talk about the 2 years.
Yeah.
I'm good.
And let's hope and pray that they come to their senses.
oh, it's a money maker. Yeah. So, do I have any other questions or concerns about the hydrochloric quote? Do we have a motion?
Make a motion that we accept the quote from HydroCorp in the amount of $46,332 for the 2-year period.
Support.
Can I get a roll call?
And we're absorbing all of it, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we need it
Well, that's a separate motion.
Separate motion? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Trustee Polly?
Yes.
Trustee Foley?
No.
Trustee Bellinger?
Yes.
Trustee Bankowski?
Yes.
And President Wright?
Yes. And we need a motion now to absorb $23,166 to pay the $23,166 per year.
Should we just make a motion for the total contract?
For the 2-year contract, yeah, you could.
Make a motion that we absorb the $46,332 for the contract period so that it's not passed on to the residents.
Support.
Roll call?
Trustee Mason?
Yes.
Trustee Bellinger?
Yes.
Trustee Polly?
Yes.
Trustee Bankowski?
Yes.
Trustee Foley?
Yes.
And President Wright?
Yes. All right, marijuana caregiver ordinance has been at the table a few times. We did eliminate the zoning requirement. And did anyone have any questions or concerns in reviewing the ordinance to establish permits and inspections related to the operations of registered primary marijuana caregivers pursuant to the initiated law of 2008? Do I have a motion?
What's the ordinance number?
Oh, I'm sorry, what's the ordinance?
391. Yeah,
Yeah, what one is the number?
391.
Make a motion that we approve ordinance number 391, an ordinance to establish zoning permits and inspections related to the operations of registered primary marijuana caregivers pursuant to the initiated by law 1 of 2008.
Support.
Been moved and supported. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, do we have any questions? You always
That's okay.
I should know better.
That's okay. So this will go into play how many days?
After publication, which how many days?
Yeah, 6.1 is,
Just the same. Without digging.
the 20th day after it's inspected,
Okay.
passage, excuse me,
Yeah.
Okay.
or the date of
The date of
publication,
publication.
Okay, and then.
whichever is first.
So we're gonna, if this passes, we're gonna quickly move forward with getting the proper stuff in order.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I could see, if you could just share that with all of us when it's.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Thank
And after, if this is approved, we have to talk about the fee.
Okay.
And that will come up at the next council.
Probably pass the actual procedure at that point.
Huh?
We have to pass the actual procedure at that point.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If this is approved, then let's talk about the permitting fee.
Okay.
Standard. That will be at the next council.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? All right, so properly moved and supported. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, and the DPW cold storage change order. Oh, wait, before we do that, there is an associated fee with permitting. It's an annual fee. Do we have an idea of what kind of fee we'd like to charge? Should be something, I don't know. Yeah, there's paperwork involved. Something $100?
Well, we wanna charge somebody $400 to move a shed, and we only wanna charge $100 to.
What's a business? What's a valuable business? I mean, what are your druthers? It's a permitted process.
What do we charge for a building permit?
We have that, right?
Yeah. No, there's different fees, there's different fees, there's different fees.
Yeah, but we-
Right.
So, and again, someone's trying to run a business.
No, I mean, I get it, and we're gonna be charging it repetitively if we're
Yearly.
recertifying, right? So, like, versus putting a shed in as a one-time thing.
Sure, sure.
I thought our building permit was like 150, but I could be completely wrong.
No.
Well, I think the administrative one, and somewhat close to that, yeah.
Yeah.
Then there's the
Yeah.
other stuff, obviously. we got-
Right,
Yeah,
of
there's
course,
stuff
you've got
built in.
electrical
Benefit
and
fees,
HVAC,
yeah.
but I think if it's in line with just the basic building permit,
Normally, these kind of things, what you're supposed to be doing is not making really any profit, but defraying the
Sure.
administrative costs.
so that's what I'm saying,
As
so.
close as you can get that as possible, which I think
That's
is
why I
about set off the
suggested
building
that.
permit, it seems rational.
Yeah, that's why I suggest maybe 100.
Well, I think whatever we're charging administratively for a building permit, then
Okay.
we can
That's the
justify it. If
rationale.
anybody comes and says, why'd you charge this? Well, because what's good for the proceeds.
I can defend that.
Okay. So does 150 sound equitable for the yearly permit, and I can have the paperwork for approval of the next council meeting?
Would it be on E-code or?
I think it's established by resolution, so probably not changed over the years.
Might be on our website though, under the building department.
Well, 150 sounds equitable, everybody kind of agrees, so. We will bring 150 back on the permitting, and copies also of the paperwork for the permitting process. Does that sound okay? Okay. We had a change order, are there any other questions or concerns about the permitting fee? Okay. DPW cold storage change order. We got the initial quote to repair our cold storage DPW building, which would allow it to fall into a state of disrepair. As the company went through, they removed some fascia underneath the eaves and they found more damage. So they submitted a change order in the amount, I believe, of $7,200. And they said we could wait until this council meeting for approval for the additional funds to repair the building.
I hate to stop you. It's $50 is our administrative fee for building permits.
No, but there's other fees tagged on to that.
Right, but it breaks it down by the administrative though. And if that's all we're trying to recoup is the administrative, then
Oh, 50, okay,
Yeah.
that's even better. $50? Does that sound okay?
And Matches, yep.
Yep. Okay, good. I will bring that paperwork back next month. Okay, and again, the change order for the wood replacement that is damaged above both garage doors, the fascia on one side of the flat roof and the upper lookout in front of the building, and the fascia metal. They removed the gutters, and the additional water damage had been exposed. There were no, gutters were missing from some sides of the building. The water got in and damaged the building additionally. The existing fascia is steel, rusted beyond repair, and Supervisor Dilbert inspected that and did agree that there is significant damage there. So the original contract cost was $56,150. The new cost with the change order would be $63,530. Now, I asked Supervisor Dilbert, should we just knock the building down?
63,350.
What is it?
500. Switch the two numbers.
Just like that. All right, it's 350. But I did ask Supervisor Dilbert, would it be more cost efficient just to knock the building down? And he said no. They store all their equipment in there, the backhoes, the trucks, and they store their equipment in there, so it's just, we can't lose the building. But with this renovation, replacing the roof, doing the tuck pointing, and I think I told you before, on a sunny day, they could walk inside and not turn the lights on because there was so much light coming into the building. So with these renovations, that building should be good to go for a long, long time. So I'm asking council to approve the additional funding on the change order in the amount of $7,200.
Make a motion that we approve change order number 1 for the amount of $7,200.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Can I get a roll call?
Steve Mason?
Yes.
Steve Holly?
Yes.
Foley?
Yes.
Steve Dombrowski?
Yes.
Steve Bellinger?
Yes.
And President Rutherford.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, now we are on call from the floor. Gentlemen, call from the floor.
Hello, Madam President, and rest of the committee members. I think it's only fair that, can you hear me? I'm sorry?
Introduce yourself.
Yeah, I think it's only fair that I introduce myself and kind of give you a background of where I came from or where I'm from and where I'm trying to go. So I'm a third generation Fetty resident here. My name is Glenn Fetty. I graduated from Maven in '95. And I joined the military, and I did 25 years in the military. And through that experience, I became a combat wounded warrior. And with that comes a lot of challenges and things that I face daily myself. So not only do I face these issues myself, I deal with them on a daily basis, being an ambassador for the Wounded Warrior, Air Force Wounded Warrior program. So what I'm coming for is this. I'm coming in front of you to ask of help. And before I bring out what I want to discuss with you, it's important that, and I guess I get to the point, mental health and mental illness. And with the COVID and everything that has happened in the recent couple of years, it's only caused it more and more with our friends, family. I suffer from it myself from combat. I've got a lot of friends and family that suffer from it. That's just from being here stateside with a traumatic event or whatever that happens to them. So with that, I think it is important not only I wanted to bring to you, and I'm asking from the board that with me being a vet and not just even experiment with it, the help that it brings me and so many people like me with my condition, the medical marijuana. I have a team backing me and supporting me to give me an opportunity to bring a business here to New Haven. We've got the state licensing already, and my team's ready to go as soon as we can, get approval. I think a medical and recreational dispo facility here in our village. What better thing, we're not, and I'm trying to get people to look at the stigma of medical marijuana, or even marijuana itself. It's been legalized, it's at the federal level right now, and it's been proven to help people tremendously. To me, war is a drug. I got all my guys coming back home, now that we've drawn down from Afghanistan. Even prior to that, these guys are drawing down. The only thing they have is alcohol. They're still, I mean, I invited my buddies to come, you know, and state that are actively serving the problems that they're having. And the only thing that they can do, because it's the only thing legalized through the federal government at this time, is alcohol. Marijuana is the same thing. THC, and they've fine-tuned it so well that it's able to take someone like me that's normally outstanding citizen, you know, and you know, the best neighbor you can have to someone you don't even know, you know, because of my condition. And you know, the medication world, as far as doctors and psychotherapy and all of that, it's all great and all fine and dandy. But it's still, there's still that need that, I call it like, you know, you can take all the pills you want. Like when someone's in anxiety or depression mode, their life's like this, up and down, right? Then you go to the doctor and then they give you Xanax or whatever. And then your life's kind of like this, more mellowed out, you know, with the THC levels, be able to, you know, with doctors, you know, authority and things like that, prescribe yourself, not prescribe yourself, but administer yourself certain doses to keep you level and ready to rock, you know, and to be good. So, you know, we've talked about, you know, the business that we're proposing and that I'm proposing is not just a dispo, but an education center as well, that we're able to educate people on mental illness, how it affects people, the different triggers that it causes people that have this illness, and what the effects THC has and how it helps so many people. So I'm asking from you to consider giving me a land permit or building permit to build a facility and operate a veteran-owned and operated dispo here to take care of not only our veterans, but all of our other people as well. I didn't want to ask you about the rec portion about this, but I thought about this, and it's we're kind of seeing it in Congress right now. I have my medical license, but it costs me upwards of $300 to get it, right? There's a lot of people in our community that can't afford that $300 just to get the license, go to the state, things like that. So the rec portion of it would still give them the ability to buy the medication they need without having a license. So I felt it was almost if I didn't ask for medical and rec, it's almost, to me, it's almost like I'm being prejudiced in a sense, or you know, like a certain type of people that I'm making it harder for them to get the same thing that others
We do have a 3-minute time.
Yeah, okay, so let's go back and sit down, or do I?
Wrap it up.
So yeah, that's what I'm asking for you, is to get the authorization, whatever it takes, to build a facility here in New Haven on land that is vacant at this point that we have. And again, we have our team to go at any time. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you and the council for any questions or concerns you may have of me.
That's fine, thank you.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Open the floor. From the table, I have a few things. Assistant Chief Stewart, can you come up for a minute? I want to ask you a question.
Yes, ma'am.
You're going to explain it better than I did.
Okay.
Can you relay to council and everyone what happened at the 5K run?
Sure. 5K run was 2 weekends ago. Started early in the morning, 9 a.m. had about, I want to say 15 runners, 15, 20 runners. And our newly acquired golf cart was assigned to follow an elderly gentleman who wanted to do the race, wanted to complete the race. After many attempts by myself just to have him come ride with me, and no shame in his game, but he finished the race, and as he finished the race, he collapsed, and he stopped breathing. His heart stopped. It happened right in front of the first aid tent, so our guys went right into action. We shot this gentleman, and he was breathing when he got an ambulance, and he was talking by the time he left the hospital. He had multiple heart surgeries, and as far as I know, he is home today.
Thank you.
So with good graces that everything turned out very well.
He was in the right place at the right time.
Place at the right time.
Congratulations to our fire department for saved. Thanks for explaining this. Call from the table.
I wanted to give an update for the police committee we talked about last month. It sounds like I have two individuals who are willing to be part of the committee. One of the individuals was requesting that we hold off until the summer was kind of over, so that there might be a little bit more free time to participate on the committee. So now that we are in the school year and the summer is winding down, and hopefully some activities are also winding down, we can kind of regroup and get availability, and then kind of put a plan forward. Tentatively, my plan, at least at this point, what I kind of had envisioned is just, an initial meeting of just, our committee, just to kind of, put some thoughts together, and then, a couple of meetings with Macomb County Sheriff's Department or whoever to try to get some things to bring back to council. So, not a really, heavy activity for the committee, but.
Do you want me to talk about this too?
Yeah, you could touch on it. Hold on. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, no, that's it. So, just giving an update that it's not bad. We're just going to regroup now that the summer is winding down.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. As soon as possible, let me know who's on the committee.
It sounds like we have Trustee Capoli and Trustee Von Kapsky.
Oh, there it goes. Okay. Terrific. Thank you. Call from the table.
Question on, just real quick, so do you have a status on the no parking signs for Arlington and in front of the elementary school? I know there's others that you're still working through.
The no parking signs have been installed on River Oaks and on Arlington, and we had the resident challenge it. With the little where it says no parking.
Yeah.
So just today, we ordered from here to corner to put underneath that sign so that the residents will understand that we do need the water side of the street to remain clear.
Yeah, I had that approached. I talked to the sheriff's deputy about that. Just so everybody knows, there was a challenge about what the sign said, what it says. Technically, between the sign's only enforceable, arguably, to a certain distance. So if you were to park between the two signs and you got a ticket, you, in theory, could win a challenge that you're not in front of a no parking sign because our signs are not descriptive enough. I'm not sure that splits a hair, but anyway, so.
We're being proactive.
Yeah, but I didn't see them on Arlington or in front of the school yet.
They ran out of, they couldn't get the poles.
Oh.
They're having a hard time getting the poles.
Okay, so they are.
Oh, yeah.
The school reached out as well as far as, because they got wind and the bus drivers got wind, and they're pretty excited about where we're going, at least with that section.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's other spots in the village, but I know at least that section, so.
Yeah, we're facing the challenge actually getting the metal poles.
Wow.
So as we get them, we'll be installing them.
Thank you.
So,
I have two things.
yeah.
Now that fall is here, we'll give us some time over the winter. Does anybody want to engage in discussion about rules and regulations with golf carts?
I think you
Absolutely
could,
not.
you could.
You guys have no opinion on it. This is why I'm saying this. I don't really care if you have a golf cart or not. I don't care whether you drive it or not, but I don't want to hear about it anymore. So either we're going to say we have rules or we don't have rules and we're going to shove it around.
We have been, I have been punishing all of you, having some of the most punitive agendas I think we've ever seen. There's so long and there's so many issues coming up. The golf cart ordinance, I have a copy from, I think, one in Richmond or something. There's something, and winter's coming.
That's what I thought, if we could do that over the winter. and
Yeah,
then
over the
come
winter,
spring,
yeah, we will talk about it.
Hire
I do
people.
know that the little parades that they have going on, crossing Gratiot is not allowed, and that's ticketable. So that's
But
something.
with that
that-
being said, that's not really our.
It will be if we already do an ordinance,
But
but,
I mean, the
yeah,
sheriff should be covering
Right.
that,
Yeah.
which,
yeah.
that would probably be part of our committee
Yeah,
discussion.
absolutely. They are violating some traffic rules right now as far as safety, as far as equipment on these golf carts. If they're going to be roadworthy, they have to have bumpers, they have to have lights. There's a whole different,
There's,
That's
Yeah.
only if we have an ordinance.
Some of
though.
them.
Right.
but the state law actually
The
stipulates.
state law allows you to have an ordinance. I
Yeah,
believe.
it allows you to have an ordinance.
So
Yeah.
you don't have anything in the village or a city unless, you can't even do it in townships usually.
Right.
I think Ira might have like an area where there's like a 35 mile an hour, less like it's below.
Yeah,
I
it
think
can't
it's
be, the
35
road
mile,
can't be more than
right?
35.
I think it was like 25, because I
Whatever.
researched it when we were looking at Richmond's.
I
Yeah.
think the state statute still says you have to, it's an enabling statute to an ordinance. If you don't have an ordinance, you don't have golf carts.
Yeah, and
I
the
think, don't, I mean, I haven't looked.
the issue is we've had parades going through town of 10 to 12 golf carts, so the issue does have to be addressed from a safety standpoint. But I think the ordinance, that if we do craft one to allow them in this, yeah, of course, it's going to be spring and summer and early fall.
For sure. But
I think some of the owners of these vehicles are going to be disappointed because there's going to be some standards in place for safety that they're not going to agree with, but, you know, you
Has
want
to
to
be
go.
actually enforced too.
I have headlights in all the mirrors.
Break
You
lights.
have to wait till I tell you can't cross Gratiot.
Well,
Any other call from?
and the second thing was, any updates?
Litigation.
Yes.
I
Really
finished
not
the
supposed to be
response
outside
to their
without-
motion to dismiss today, and I filed it today. And next Monday is when we will be arguing their second motion to dismiss our case on the declaratory relief count that we're surviving on. So we'll see. On Friday, probably be about Friday is when I'll get their reply brief, right? So there's an initial motion and brief, and then there's our response, and then their reply. And it's the only three written things that you can do. Each of those are page limited, 20, 20, and then 5. And then on next Monday, I'll argue it probably. Al might argue, we might both be there, I don't know who's gonna argue it. And then, Judge Druzinski may make a ruling from the bench, or she may say, I'll issue a written order of opinion like she did before, and it'll be weeks or even months. So she may forego oral argument, I doubt that this time. So,
I know that the district court is just opening up, they've got a backlog of cases. Do they have it?
not at circuit, we're okay
Okay.
on that,
All right.
we're fine. The district courts are a different animal for sure, yeah.
And for those of you that I didn't tell you, it was the Phoenix lawyers, and I'm going to use the wrong language here, tried to have the sole charge dismissed, and they appealed all the way up to the Michigan Supreme Court, and they got denied.
Yeah, I should have meant my
Came way back.
I should have meant my comment. Circuit right now is a little backed up because Judge Harrison is gone from probate, so they've taken Judge Marlinga and put him in probate, so his entire docket, I think, is being reassigned to all the other,
Okay.
and so they've all just taken on additional, so.
Okay, that's fine. So, yeah, as we get the information, guys, I'll update you. So far, we got a dog in the fight, so keep your fingers crossed.
Thank
And
you.
we'll see what's going on. Call from the table.
I just had one, I just want to respond to Mr. Fetty. If you need this board to take action, I recommend that you go to the village early and get an agenda item, because we can't take action during calls from the board.
I appreciate that information, sir, thank you.
Call from the table. Do I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn?
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody want to say no?